What's up, you dirtbags? Luke and I are back in studio with another huge episode. This is after our latest Dirtbags University. Luke, cheers. How we doing, man?
Cheers to you, my man, with my water in hand. Unfortunately, tonight we have more snow in the forecast. So, Jeremy, I'm not drinking again, just so you know.
Yeah, dude, just showing him the water bottle full of vodka, like on camera. I can't believe you did that.
Don't smell. Doing one of the
oh man,
water, I promise. But good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. I'm so stoked for this episode. We've had a couple bangers recently of just episodes that are really taken off for us, and so it's exciting to see more and more people listening to them, but also just like continuing to bring on the right guests, the right people, and just trying to add value to the listeners.
I think so. This one is going to be really relatable because everybody in our industry this will happen to them many times, probably throughout their working lives, right? So a very, very important topic, and couldn't get a better guest on other than Matt with Sapphire Construction Services. Matt, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How you couple dirtbags doing?
Good, brother. Good.
Duty.
I just stole Luke's intro. Usually he's the one that introduces everybody.
Dude, I love it.
On the radar there.
Luke, you didn't give the old Studi though.
That's true. Studi. Yep. Matt Studi.
There we go.
Not to be confused with study.
Yeah, as Luke would say before we started airing, he was like, Matt, is this
come on.
study?
I'm not supposed to tell everybody that.
Most of the time I just let it brush off my shoulder. I'm pretty used to it. I'm like, I know they're talking about me, so it's all good.
That's funny. Oh, that's good. Well, no, thank you for taking the time to talk to us, man. So we're anxious to get this one rolling. Yeah.
And Matt, sounds like you got it rolling a little earlier, a little 4 p.m. nap going, a little bourbon before the show. Like, yeah, are you a little juiced up to be here?
I was half-assed ready to just go to bed for the night, but I knew I had to be here, so I had to get fired up and pepped up and head back to the office. So we've got I know you guys are on the NA, but we're drinking a little chicken cock.
Oh, nice.
Let's go.
I've never had that before, but
where is that? That's not a Montana one, is it? Like a Montana brewed whiskey?
Tell you the truth,
still?
Couldn't even tell you where it's from. It was one I kind of like just dabbling in something new, and I found it at a store a few weeks ago, and it kind of stuck. So
imagine walking through the store and you see chicken cock. I'm going to try that one.
Tosses a lot of confusion people's way for sure.
Yeah,
what are you drinking?
Chicken cock. You never had it?
Never had it? All right, cool.
Oh shit, that's funny. Well, basically, Luke, not to kind of burst the intro here, but Matt, you had, I don't remember, what was it? Did we send you something on Instagram, or did you reach out to us? I
originally reached out to you guys.
Yes.
I just started listening to the podcast here. I mean, it's probably been longer than I thought, but I want to say 3 or 4 weeks. Came across you guys, always looking for another good dirt podcast. I've kind of ran my cycle through all the other ones. I've listened to Witt's podcast, crushed through all the Devin Dyers. And it'd been a while since I came across a new one. Some of those have kind of fickled out where they're not always making new episodes. So came across and kind of crushed the majority of them in the course of a few days. I kind of go through my cycles of listen to music or just diving deep into podcasts. And I was like, well, shit, I'll throw it out there. If these guys ever need somebody, I'd love to chat. So
yeah, it was interesting too. I remember seeing your message and Luke and I right away, I think just it, kind of sparked something where you talked about, let me know if you ever want to, talk about burnout or, have, just jump into a conversation, because you've been doing this for a while, but you've also had the ups and downs, and we can really dive into some of those conversations. And Luke, I guess you could say we did a little bit, with James's first episode, like really diving into the real business struggles. But I think knowing that and then getting, to talk to you, Matt, I think I'm excited to dive into, how do you combat burnout and like, how do you get back on the saddle and like reignite that flame of like, okay, we got to get back out here and do this. And like, even like, why do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess myself, I'm very preface to stress. I mean, every position I've held prior to doing my own business venture was not necessarily a higher level, like I was a CFO or anything like that, but, you know, project engineer, kind of project manager, superintendent. And obviously, as anybody knows, listen to this, there's a lot on your shoulders at that position, whether it be a smaller residential excavation company that's handling 20 different jobs, or it was my situation. I worked for a heavy civil company, Barnard Construction, that's kind of a competitor with like Kiewit, and getting thrown into the mix of that stuff at, you know, younger 20s, 24, 25, and basically just being a guy with an education that had no fucking idea what he was doing. And a lot of demands from all of the higher management and a lot of micromanagement. The stress became a very kind of used to situation for me. And then take that and expand that into starting your own business. But everybody talks about it being, you know, like, I'll just go work for myself and shit's going to be awesome. I'm going to make more money and, you know, I'm going to make my own schedule. And the reality of that is there. But if you're striving for, you know, really chasing jobs and really trying to build your business and bring income to your business to buy more equipment, hire better people, provide training, provide benefits and everything, it quickly becomes not so much that little,
right.
Oh shit, I'll just work 20 hours this week and there'll be all this and shit's good, you know, everything's fine. Granted, there's people that you can find that niche where if you want to stay small, you know, grab a mini and a skid steer and maybe a buddy to help you out on the weekends, you can do that and you can live pretty comfortably. But I think the majority of us that are in this industry, we're not really ones to just settle in and be cool with just that. So we're going to keep chasing more. And with that comes the whole different type of stress. It's not stress from management. It's not stress from, am I going to lose my job? It's stress from, am I going to BK this son of a bitch and have to start over? Am I going to bankrupt this and have to go get a job? Is it, you know, just all of the different worries? Are we going to screw up some pipe we put in the ground and end up in a lawsuit? There's just all kinds of different stress that I think at surface level, and I was one of them too. When I bought the first mini excavator, I'm like, oh fuck, I'll just go grade out some driveways and, you know, dig a few holes, and there's not a care in the world. But those cares, they escalate as you grow, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think you're chasing? Yeah, I know we all have that, but what do you think you're chasing, and when do you think you'll get there?
That is the golden question, my friend, because it's one of those where it's good to kind of just the expression of stop and smell the roses, you know, like if you would have told me 4 years ago when I started doing this that I'd be sitting in this chair right now with the fleet of equipment, the crew of great guys I have, and kind of like the business prospects and the projects we have, I would have told myself I was fucking out of my mind, you know? So that's a humbling question you ask, because I ask myself a lot. I'm like, when is it enough? Like, I thought it'd be enough when I had, you know, a mini, a skid steer, and a mid-size excavator. And soon enough, here comes the next piece. Here comes the next piece. Oh, I want to get a $200,000 job. Now it's a 500. Now it's $1 million. It's like, there's always, like, we create these own individual carrots that we dangle in front of ourselves with these business ventures. And to be completely honest, I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah, I think a lot of people resonate with that too, because it is, you set this, not even a necessary tangible goal, but you set like this. I think a lot of us look at where other businesses are and you're like, oh shit, that would be cool to be where they're at. I want to get to there. And once you reach that point, you don't even realize it. You look around and it takes 2 months later, you look around, you're like, oh, I've already surpassed that. So who am I chasing now? Or what am I chasing now? You know,
it almost feels like when you do hit it, that it's like nothing really changes or happens. And it's like, this is what I was chasing this whole time. But Luke, I'll kind of flip that question to you. Like, do you have an answer to that question for yourself with Black Iron and Western and even the dirtbags?
I think it's the challenge of being able to complete it. Right? Knowing that there is a lot of opportunity in the space. Like, say you go, like Matt had said, from a skid steer to just a smaller excavator, and then you get your mid-size, right? Then you're like, fuck yeah, super cool, I'm right here. But then there's more opportunities that come along with those. And I feel like everybody in our space naturally just wants to be very competitive. Oh, I can do that. Fuck yeah, I can do that. I want to challenge myself and try that, right? And as soon as you kind of get rolling with that, that's when the dominoes fall, right? That's when you're taking on more people, you're buying more equipment, you're building more of a team because of competitiveness. That's Matt, can you relate to that?
Absolutely. That's 100% what it is. And it's, and I can't really point a finger to if it's a competitiveness with other crews in the area, other crews in the country, or just truly, I think it's more so just an inner competitiveness.
Yeah. 100%.
It's just like, hey, I reached this. Why can't I reach the next level? Why can't I pick up this job? Like, you know, there's been so many projects in the past. So you guys know a little bit about my background. I'll step back a little bit, but I mean, when I bought the first mini excavator 4.5 years ago or whatever it was, I had maybe spent 80 hours in an excavator in my life. You know, like I had always been around dirt work, but more so from a management perspective. So I understood concepts, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing in a machine.
Yep.
The majority of what I had done was a little bit of demo work. And when I was running a gravel pit, sitting in a 349 digging pit run out of the pond. So nothing technical. But as you take that and like going from a position like that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that started out the same way, where they saw an opportunity in the industry and they're like, hey, I need to teach myself these skills. And that's exactly what it was. And there was numerous projects along the way that going into them, you just couldn't shy away from the pressure. Like you got to build that confidence and be like, hey, I'm going to surround myself by people that know what they're doing. If they're a call away, if I'm going to hire them, whatever it may be, and I'm going to figure this out. And it's just like that, Chase, too. Like, oh shit, that one really racked my brain. Like I wasn't sure how to put in that storm drain or whatever it may be. But now here we are, thousands of feet behind it. It's like, what's the next challenge? What's the next thing that I can learn and accomplish? And I think that's part of it for me, is just like stepping into that little bit of an unknown. Like, okay, this is a section of dirt work I haven't had a lot of experience in, but why the hell would I be afraid of it now?
Yep.
Yeah. And I have a good story, but I want to ask the question first. Matt, do you think that when you bought your first piece of iron, was that more important to you than like some of the bigger things you've purchased now, or how has that changed for you?
I think so. I think so. I think we get blurred with what these things cost. And as we build relationships with dealers and banks and everything, like it's easier to go buy a $150,000 piece than it was to buy that first $45,000 piece. Cause it's that taking that step out of like that mentality of personal financial versus business financial, where like, that was the most, at that point in my life, that was outside of my house. That was the most expensive thing I had ever bought. No vehicle, no toy, nothing had ever exceeded that, you know, $45,000 for that. What was that? A 2015 50G John Deere. Not like that was a big deal to go sign those papers in the bank, because you had to go through all the financial assets, all of the paperwork, all of the processing and underwriting just to get that. And now it's like, call Western States. Hey man. Yeah. I think I'll take that machine. And most of the time I'm running the machine before I even sign paperwork.
Right. They're just like, we already put your name on it. We knew you would get it.
Exactly. And it's happened with like the last 4 pieces, and like, God bless those relationships with those dealers like that. But those, absolutely. The first one meant like, they all mean a lot because it all means growth, but like taking that initial step to get that first piece was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Luke,
and that $500 a month payment was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Keep the pants a little bit.
Luke, that reminds me of what just happened with you, how they dropped off the new, you know,
big boy. That one was funny. So we're looking at a newer excavator size, and one of the dealers found out that we were shopping. And so they found out where our 315 was through, it's the geofencing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And they dropped off a machine right next to it, and we didn't know it was there. And they're like, we got there the next morning, and they're like, and one of my guys, Andy, texted me. He's like, there's 320 here. Do you know that? I was like, no. And he goes, you didn't order it? I said, no. And so I called my cat guy up and he goes, oh yeah, no, I'm glad you got it. I forgot to tell you. And I was like, yeah, kind of slipped your mind, huh? And it was not like, it couldn't have been an easy drop off for him. No doubt. But yeah, it's a good thing you have relationships like that with dealers, because they are, I mean, those pieces make you money, right? And they know that obviously because they're selling them, but they obviously want to take care of you too. The good ones do anyway.
Oh, absolutely. That's been a huge deal for me, because I started out with, I guess I'll preface it with saying I don't really have at the core, I don't have a preference on equipment. I think they all do what they need to do. They're all pretty damn similar. Everybody has their preferences on them, but they all do the same job. Why I've shifted to Caterpillar and only Caterpillar is purely because of that service and that relationship. I went through the local RDO here. I had a Deere Mini and a 329 skid steer. And this is when I was just a one-man band, not a lot of money sitting in the bank. I don't have funds to go rent shit.
Yep.
So, call the dealer. Hey, I've got a leaking cylinder here. When can I get it in to get it fixed? Oh, well, shit, drop it off Monday. We might get to it by Friday. And I'm like, not going to work.
Yeah.
Call Caterpillar. They're like, oh yeah, just bring that machine by. We'll have it done today. Yep. Not even the machine that they sell, So I was like, that's it. I'm shifting,
No, it is really good to, again, they're all great, right? But why people buy what they do is strictly service.
Absolutely.
Yep.
100%. I think if you're buying for reasons outside of the service and how those people treat you, you're buying for the wrong reasons.
Correct. You get all those people that are like, oh, you're drinking the cat Kool-Aid or deer or die or whatever the fuck they say. But no, it's all on service.
Well, and the reality of it too is like, yeah, cat equipment is more expensive than some of the other brands. Absolutely. If you take the same size machine, same capabilities, you're going to pay more for the cat machine. But I've gotten to a point in this business, whether it's the machines, the insurance, the accounting, whatever it is, if that relationship's there and there's value in that relationship, and I'm a text away on something rather than having to go through the full-blown chain of command to get to somebody, that's worth hard dollars to me. Like I will pay the extra. My insurance, I'm sure I'm paying more than I need to on some things.
Yeah.
But the dude I go through treats me so well, and he's literally a text or a call away for anything I need. And same with the dealers. Like I'll call him at 9 p.m. Hey, this is what I need. Got you. And it's done. That's worth money because it's your time, and your time's money.
Correct. I will say though, to your point on cat prices, I went through 3 dealers, RDO, Komatsu General, and then Caterpillar. And the cat guys blew the other 2 out of the water. So I don't know. Oh yeah, big time. So that made my decision pretty easy.
Well, I stand corrected then.
But yeah, it used to be that way. Everyone was like, oh, you bought a cat, you overpaid for that fucking machine. It's the same thing. It always used to be that way. So I don't know what flipped the switch, but maybe I got lucky. Maybe they had a typo or something that they just didn't.
Whoops.
Admittedly, I haven't shopped anything else. And, unless it's something on Ritchie Brothers or something on Machinery Trader for kind of an assist piece that's not, that's something older that's not going to get used much. I don't even bother to look, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Kind of stick with what I know.
100%. And if they take care of you, that's worth its weight in gold.
Mm-hmm.
So
it absolutely is.
Yeah. Well, kind of getting back to our topics here a little bit, like we had talked originally, you're from Montana, right? Kalispell, Montana.
Yep.
The conditions there are not easy. We were talking a little bit about, I didn't realize that where you guys are, they actually have clay. I always talk to Dane out in Bozeman, and he's like, oh, Luke, the soil's so fucking rocky. You might get, a foot of frost or whatever. But I can relate because that's all we have here too is clay. And I mean, on bad years, we'll battle 4 to 4.5 feet of it.
Yep. Yeah, there's the soils throughout this valley range so damn much. I mean, up in the Columbia Falls area, along Flathead River, kind of all along the east side of Highway 2, it's all, I mean, that's where the majority of the gravel pits are. So you got a little bit of overburden and you're straight into pit run all throughout there. But you get up into Whitefish, and there's been two residential sites I've dug on that we actually found rock, and it was just your random boulder.
Just a random vein.
Yeah, just something random. But the one of the large projects we've been working on for the last year and a half is we have not found a single stone in that entire project unless we imported it. And I mean, last year we were digging one of the big crawl space foundations for one of the condos, and we were ripping through that with a 323, and there was probably close to that 3.5 feet of frost throughout that entire thing, just from that clay just holds moisture so damn much, and people are running grade alls over it in concrete trucks, and we all know how that just packs it to the core. And yeah, I mean, it was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
When you guys are out doing that, I know how it is. I get so frustrated. How do you keep spirits high with you and your guys that are doing the work?
Oh man,
that's another $1 million question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually can.
It is, because it's so difficult, and I'm guilty of it just as much as anybody else is. Like my spirits will get down with it, and I want to be the first one to bitch and just be like, man, this is fucking bullshit that we're even out here dealing with that. And I'm not as good as I'd like to be with resurrecting that to keep spirits high with guys, but I mean, it's difficult, man. I'm all you can really lean on with those situations is we're out working. Everybody's collecting a paycheck. I mean, from a business standpoint, yeah, you have your change orders for your winter conditions and everything, but at the end of the day, you're not making what you should be in comparison to the bid if you find yourself out there in the middle of the winter sorting through that shit. I really just try to look internally and just be happy to be out there working and having the opportunity to do it, and try to bleed off a little bit of the fact that the dollars and cents aren't what they should be. I'm always happy to have the opportunity to have my guys out working. That's rewarding for me. I know it means a shit ton more to them than it does to me to have the equipment out running and collecting a paycheck, because half of those days that are shitty and cold with deep frost and snow and everything, like I just assume park the equipment, not even turn the key, So I think that's really the main thing that keeps me going through it, and just watching your crew persevere through things like that is also very rewarding for me, because there's a lot of guys that would take two looks at that and be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go find an office job. This shit ain't like watching these dudes that come out and just be like, all right, let's fucking make it happen. Like, hell yeah, let's do it.
I'm on board. Let's do it, because there really is another option.
Tear that machine up.
Yeah, we kind of dealt with that a little bit earlier this year, and it was be coming into winter, and winter hit us a lot harder and a little bit sooner than we had thought. And I mean, I'm always a figure it out kind of guy, right? When we come up to an obstacle, I'm not like, well, can't really do anything about it, let's just pack up. To where we had some discrepancies on site to where they're like, it's just not possible. I'm like, it is possible. It is possible. Anything is possible. We just have to figure out what we need to do. And maybe I was hard on guys or whatever, but I tried to stay as positive as I could. And it is really tough, because when you are surrounded by negativity all the time, you're like, well, why am I the only one that's positive? Why am I the only one that's trying to put in the effort?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's part of it too, is just like realizing that there is a way around it. That's our business. That's half of what our business is running into roadblocks, whether that be grade bust, whether that be engineering issues. You got to find out a solution, troubleshooting with GCs, like guaranteed you will run into a problem every single day. And if you just threw your hands up every time and demobbed, you're not gonna be around. You have to find solutions. And it's, just as human nature, it is difficult sometimes to find the positivity in those situations, because you walk into a day thinking you got a smooth sailing operation for the day, and then you run into a buried utility that wasn't marked, and you're like, oh, well, I guess this changes the course of the day and we're going to get half as much done. But as long as there's progress, especially with those roadblocks, you're winning.
Correct.
That's how I look at it.
No, I like that, because it is tough, because everybody has their own, way of doing things. Everyone has their own kind of twists on how they run their businesses, right? I don't know. There are days, yeah, when we had talked to you where you're like, I'm burnt out, but I got to keep going. You have to be your support system, right? Because you're not only your guys' support system, but you have to be your own support system, because there's probably not a lot of people that are telling you like, hey, you got it. Maybe your wife or, someone in your family, but only you, I feel like, understands the magnitude of you telling to keep going.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I think I'm sure, Luke, you can resonate with it too. It is when you're chasing that hard for that long, and say you're running through a full winter, or it's just been, I know for us, it's probably the same for you. Everybody always talks about like, oh shit, summer must be crazy. It must be insane. You must be still stressed and busy. I actually fucking love summer. Yeah. Summer is my favorite chunk because, especially being over here in the Flathead Valley, everybody understands. They're like, yep, we're going to work Monday through Thursday. Part of Friday, people are going camping. People are going fishing. They're going to the lake and surfing. Like, things are a lot more structured as far as schedule goes. For us, it's the spring, because shit melts off and everybody wants to go right fucking now and not a second later. And it's, mid-September, October, because there's always a situation where we need to get the parking lot down now so we can paint it black, or we need to get this concrete done, and it turns into absolute chaos.
Yep.
And that's when I typically experience it, because it's already as I'll call it lax as the summer is. It's not lax, but it's a little more structured schedule wise. Coming into the fall, when you've got the nature of schedules, everything stacks up, and you've all of a sudden 1 week you've got 4 projects you're supposed to be on, putting parking lots in, or prepping garages, or prepping big slabs, or whatever it may be, and that stacks. And trying to sort through it and treat all of your Class A customers as best as you can, but knowing in your heart that you can't possibly get to every single one of them and complete all those tasks unless you somehow morphed 8 clones throughout your crew overnight and created 4 more pieces of equipment.
Well,
it's just like that. That's what beats me down sometimes. And it's part of it's self-inflicted, because I tend to be a yes man in some respects, which I truly do think, as much as that is a downfall, it's also a positive attribute, because there's not anything positive about a contractor calling you, be like, hey man, I know the schedule changed, but we need to have you over here this week, and you tell them to go fuck yourself. There's nothing positive about that.
No.
So being able to sort through and jump through the hoops to take care of your customers, take care of your guys, and make sure that this work gets done, pays dividends on the other end as well. But it doesn't discount the fact that it burns you the fuck out at the same time, because you're finishing up a job at 6 p.m. and you're pushing hard just to try to get that done to a completion point, which unfortunately usually isn't even the 100% completion point. And in the back of your mind, you're forcing your guys out of there, and you're gonna have to come back to finish something just to get to that next project, to appease the next one down the line and make sure that their project gets paved that year, to keep that relationship and to keep everything flowing. That's where I'm just like, my mind spins throughout the fall. Part of it could be better at saying no and just being like, hey, we can't, which I need to do to a level, because we do leave, it'll build a tendency to leave things just 3% unfinished, which is going to require a remote. But that's where I get the full stress and the burnout is September, October, before the snow flies, because it's a goddamn panic attack for everybody over here. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Luke.
No, it's the spring and fall, right? Everybody in the spring wants their project done yesterday. Well, it's like, there's still frost on the ground. We can't do this. Same with fall. Oh, it's going to snow next week. We need to get this graded out today, or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But to your yes man comment, I think the companies, you have to be a yes man, right? You obviously have to bring reality into the yes man attitude, but absolutely. I feel like that is what grows businesses. If contractors or whoever know, like, hey, if we call him to do the project, or if he bids on a project and maybe they're a little higher or whatever it is, but we've worked with them before. And every time we have asked for something, they bring reality into it, but he always gets it done. I think that speaks volumes.
Well, and I think we could just change the terminology of it and change it from a yes man to just a do man.
Yeah.
And just rather than, and take it from, because the yes man gets kind of a bad complex where it's like, hey, can you come over and, sweep the sidewalks for me on this weekend and everything, like,
right.
Kind of an extreme example, but the do man, I think, is almost a better example, because we try to do that. And I know it extends into like some shit we probably shouldn't even be considering sometimes, but I try to look out for these job sites as a whole. Like if the framer comes to me, he's like, hey man, I know you guys are on the way out of here, but if you could, like, winter work, for example, like if you could import a few loads of gravel just to level this area and soak up through some of the mud here, keep us from being stuck, be greatly appreciated. Like, yeah, absolutely. Because that's for the greater good of the entire project, and it's obviously something that's billable too. So it's not really any skin off anybody's back. Correct. And it builds that reputation too amongst your common subs. Correct. Which is huge.
100%. Well, and it makes, going back to the do man thing, right? If people know that they ask you to do something and they know it'll be done, the word travels, the word spreads. Yeah. I see a lot of people in this area to where I don't want to say cater, right? They don't cater to other businesses, but they don't really care about their business. Mm-hmm. Not their company that they own, but it's the person that they're working for. They don't really care. I feel like if you show a mutual care to the people that you work for, that also helps really kind of it just explodes everything. You really move a lot faster in your growth stages. But to the people that are just like, we're shutting down for the winter, not doing anything, call us in the spring. Yep. I feel the likelihood of them getting called back is less and less every time that happens.
It absolutely is. And it's such a double-edged sword too, because it's part of the conversation too, where like, as a business owner, like, this fucking thing going to be glued to you 24/7.
You want to just roll that fucker something.
Just want to chuck it out the goddamn.
Oh yeah.
Room. But internally that the anxiety of turning this thing on airplane mode or shutting it off is going to be worse than actually taking the phone calls and the emails. Correct. I couldn't tell you how many times, we're going out of town for the week or the weekend and people are like, oh yeah, just turn that thing on airplane mode. I'm like, I physically can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would rather take the calls, take the emails, at least be able to visibly see what's going on than just be completely in the dark and come back to an absolute shitstorm. Because I'd be able to relax less if I was able to do that. And it's a terrible relationship with that thing, but that's the reality.
Yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, because that's just being an entrepreneur and a business owner. I mean, you need to oversee the business for a while. I mean, at some point, but I mean, it doesn't mean you have to respond to every text and every email you get, but like you said, Matt, just checking to make sure that there's no fires that are going on that you can step in and maybe resolve in 2 seconds, maybe a couple minutes, quick phone call, something like that. So I definitely feel that too. My wife and I went on our honeymoon this year. We went to Italy for 2 weeks, and it was the first time I've really ever kind of shut my phone off for 2 weeks and did zero work. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it again, but I did it that one time. So I definitely feel you there. And
you did it.
Yeah, exactly. I did it early on in business. Now I don't know if I could do it.
Well, hopefully you don't have to take another honeymoon.
That's true. Only one of those.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that all ties back into the entire concept of just like, as a business owners, your brain is constantly fucking spinning on something. I was laying there last night at like 11 o'clock thinking about, because we've been doing some just in-office training this week, and I'm sitting there laying there thinking about how I'm going to go about the conversation, how I'm going to go about training on this and that. And I'm just like, dude, shut it off. Just go to sleep.
You can't. No,
it doesn't happen.
As much as you try, you really can't. And that really plays into, you have to be passionate about what you do. Because if it's something you don't like to do, that's going to kill you. Not figuratively, but like mentally.
Yep.
Yeah. And Matt, I'm going to flip the conversation, like what Luke was just saying, because we've been talking a lot about burnout and what you're saying too, of like you lay awake, but I think if you flip it, like that's what keeps you going. Like that's what keeps you successful as a business owner. That's what keeps the drive, because if you don't have that, and if you're kind of just like checking out at 5 o'clock every day and going off, like, I don't think you're going to make it, honestly. And it's just like having that drive. So the more I think about it, the more the burnout isn't a bad thing, but it's just how to deal with the burnout. But the fact that you have it, I think that's actually comes from a good place, because the engine is always going, like the motor is going, and you just keep having those thoughts and you're always thinking business, but just learning how to deal with the burnout portion is kind of what we're working on.
Yeah. And back to your comment on if you just shut the phone off at 5 p.m. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to get better about, like, if I get those texts at 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whatever, and it's not something that's dire, if it's clearly something that can wait till the next day, that's where I have this thing where it's almost like having a phone full of notifications. When you open it, like, you just have to go through and clear them, which I've gotten much worse at, by the way. I've always got 100 unread text messages, but just like, I feel a responsibility to respond to these people because I care about them. I care about a relationship, but the reality is whatever they're sending, I know when I send a text message after, 6 p.m. or something to somebody, it's because something crossed my mind that I needed to ask and I didn't want to forget. And I'll always preface it like, hey man, don't need to respond now, but tomorrow could you look into whatever it may be? So getting better about that and just being able to shut it off in that sense, like still be cognizant of what you're receiving. But where I was going with that is the people, a big issue in this valley particular, and Luke, I'd like to hear about what it's like over in your area too, especially Flathead Valley has absolutely exploded in the last 2 years. Like it's blown up huge. Values have went up insane. Apartment buildings, houses getting built everywhere. And even from prior to that time, when I first started, like I'd get a phone call from a homeowner or whatever it may be, which those were most of the calls in the beginning. And just the gasp and excitement in their voice when they're like, oh my God, you answered your phone, or you called me back. Thank you so much. I've called 15 people and nobody will talk to me. And it's just like answering your phone and being present in that, or returning phone calls. I know I've definitely hit that threshold where I don't get back to every single one of them anymore. But for the longest time, like I would. Every single phone call, I would call somebody back, and making that connection, that speaks huge dividends too, and building your business. Like, hey, call this dude. He'll answer his phone. He'll get back to you. He'll come out to your job and look at it. Whether he can do it or not, he'll at least give you some insight. I think that stuff is just so huge. And I know it's been just gravely important in how I've built my business, is just that communication with just a random stranger that's calling you like, hey, I need a quote on this. Thank you for answering your phone.
Yeah. I've got a really good point. Sorry to cut you off, but I feel like that has been such an overplayed statement that people always say. And to somebody who's like an average Joe, they're like, why wouldn't people answer their phone? If it's ringing, answer it. Like, it's not a big deal. But you do get to a point to where you're like, I can't take that right now. I have too much going on, or I'm doing this, whatever it is. But if you take that step and you continue to just stay consistent from when you had started, it'll take you a long ways. But I see a lot of people, I hear it all the time. They're like, answering your phone is easy. What do you mean? Like, how is that so hard in the contracting world? I'm like, try it and you'll understand.
Take 300 phone calls a day and then talk.
Correct. Right. Correct. Yeah. No, yeah.
I've gotten to a point too where, the voicemails, it could be a week before I even see it and check it. I've got T-Mobile, so there's that whole fucking battle too.
Oh yeah.
Shit doesn't come in for forever, but I'll get a voicemail from somebody and maybe it's been 5 days. Maybe I forgot about it and it's been over a week. I'll still make that outreach and I'll call that person back and say, hey, I got your voicemail. I apologize for the delay. Wanted to see if you need any help with anything. And most of the time they're like, and this is what I expect. They're like, hey, I found somebody to help me out with it, but thank you so much for your call back.
Yep.
Even the principle of that, take 35 seconds just to call back and just not be the complete ghost, and just be like, hey, I apologize for the delay. I'm busy. It's no excuse to you, but I do want to hear if I can help you at all. So here I am. And same with, I've gotten to a point where some of my best friends text me and I don't even get back to them for 4 or 5 days kind of deal, you know. It's just
they can wait, right? They're not making you money. I'll text you back in 2 weeks when it's maybe like a Sunday.
They're trying to go drink bourbon. They're not trying to pay you for services.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you don't need a hole dug? Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. And Luke and I talked about this, you know, it's about being a man too, and just owning up to it, of just like call them back. And like you said, Matt, like a lot of times, you know, in the back of your head how it's going to go, right? They've already been taken care of, but just like give them a call back, tell them no, tell them yes, like whatever it is, ask if they need anything. Just that small little act, I mean, can get you so far. And it's really just owning up to it and being a man, because you are the business owner. Your phone number is on the website, wherever they found it. And if you're not just as simply like calling them back or answering your phone, obviously it's just not going to work out long term when people do start contacting you.
Oh yeah, I truly think it's such a huge deal. As much as a pain in the ass these phones are, like it's something. It's an unwritten rule, but it's a dotted line you sign without knowing it. When you start a business, you better answer that motherfucker, and you better get back to people, whether it's immediately or as you grow and the volume's just too much. Like, you got to do that outreach, because it comes down to a reputation standpoint of like, hey, at least that dude got back to me. I'd still recommend them. They were willing to come out and take a look at a job. Whereas the other people, I mean, I've got fellow contractors I work with frequently. I can't get a hold of them for weeks at a time. Like, hey dude, I need to rent your roller. I need to buy some gravel from you. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to go somewhere else, because I can't contact them, you know? And that's frustrating, like business owner to business owner. That gets irritating. Like, I like working with the other subcontractors that I know I can get a hold of. It's right back down to the relationship status. Like, the guys that are just on the same page, like, yeah, it might be 7:00 at night, but if something comes across your brain, like you forgot that you need a truck tomorrow, like, yeah, hit me up. I'll make sure it happens.
Correct.
Those things are just important.
No.
Yeah, Matt, I've got something for you. So earlier we were talking about, you know, obviously chasing goals, you know, different things like that. What's something that you like need to change of how you act and how you conduct yourself right now as a business owner to get to where you want to be, like realistically? Like, what's something that you need to change?
What I'm currently in the works of trying to do, and this goes to obviously as we've grown, as I've grown, as however you want to put it, obviously it went from me being in the equipment all the time, every day, all week, to now I have some great employees that I have in the seats, that I have in the field, and my time in the seat is very, very minimal at this point, because I know my place is better in the business, seeking out the work, bidding the work, creating those relationships with future clients, and really giving the guys the tools to be successful in the field. And actually, it's a great question, because I just had this conversation with my guys today while we were doing some training. The biggest thing I'm striving to do better right now is spread the information that I hold tight in my heart and my brain, with whether that's full plan sets, whether that's conversations I've had with the general on how something's going to go, and giving my field personnel every last fucking bit of information they need to be successful out there. Because I'm very good and very bad at coming out to the job site in the morning and giving them only the pieces of information they need to succeed for the next 4 hours, for the next day. Like, hey, today we are doing this. Here you go. But not giving them the full spread of like, here's the plans. We're going to be burying this conduit from A to B, but keep in mind we have this storm drain to cross, or these utilities to cross, or we're going to have to dig a foundation here, so make sure that these utilities miss the footprint of that. And not giving them the grand scheme and giving them the full information that they need in order to really wrap their heads around kind of the end goal of everything. And that's something I'm working on internally right now. And I think it's something that I got caught up in, where I did start out just by myself, kind of slowly hired employees, and like I'll call myself, I was the quote unquote brains of the operation, you could say, where like I met with the client, I bid the job, I accepted the job, I lined out the job, and otherwise I was hiring people to assist in that. But as I grow, I'm really finding the value in just giving your guys the tools that they need to really be successful, not only for the business and as employees, but just for individuals too, so that they can actually learn and grow from these experiences and, gain knowledge that they need. Because obviously the goal is always to keep employees long-term and build these guys up, reward them, give them the perks that they need, give them a good life, get that loyalty. But at the same time, it's also valuable to give them those tools. So if they do want to go down a different venture, if they want to go work for a smaller company, a bigger company, if they want to start their own, they have those tools to do that. And so that's kind of in general what I'm probably my biggest downfall right now, and what I'm working on throughout this slower winter is just getting equipped to like, hey, when you go out to this job, we're going to have a 4-hour meeting before we start this big project. Yep. We're going to go through every last sheet of this entire plan set. We're going to go through every last thing that needs to happen. So, when you dig this building, do not pile your spoils on the northeast side of this building, because the next day we're digging a water line right there, and we don't want to spend 2 hours moving shit with a loader. Yep. So that's kind of my summary on that one.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about delegating, and obviously delegating is huge as a business owner, but what you just talked about there, like delegating is only half of it, in my opinion. The other half is empowering and equipping your guys after you delegate to them, because you can't just, hey, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you leave. Like that's kind of where you're at now. But that next step of like empowering them to be like, you are the leader on this job. I'm going to make sure you have all the resources you need to complete the job. And, you shouldn't even have to be there anymore. So like empowering and equipping your guys to get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, if we had this exact same conversation today, and one of my lead guys, after the conversation, he kind of pointed out, he's like, guys, I think what Matt's asking for right now is that he needs help in us taking responsibility for some of these situations. And I was like, fucking nailed it. And I was Bingo. And with that, if I'm going to ask you to take responsibility, take ownership, be prideful in your work, expect a high level of quality, I'm not there to micromanage you. I'm there to give you the tools that you need to complete the job, whether that be equipment, whether that be plan sets, parts, pieces, trucking, gravel. Like, I'm here to provide those things. If I show up on a job site late in the day and I have questions about why you're doing something a certain way, logistically wise, I'm not going to fucking throw my arms up and be like, what the fuck are you doing? I'll be like, hey, did you think about doing it this way? Mm-hmm. Oh, you did? Right. And okay, yeah, you're right. That's why it works better this way. Great, carry on. And just, like you said, just empowering them with that, because it speaks volumes, I feel like, to just thinking back to times I was an employee. Like, if I'm out making decisions and things are flowing, but then somebody rolls in and just flips my world upside down, like, I'm probably not going to take responsibility for what I'm doing anymore. I'm just going to sit there and wait and be like, all right, what do you want me to do, boss?
Yeah, right.
Beat it down my throat. Let's hear it.
That kills your motivation, and it kills the ambition to want to try to strive and do more, and to show that you have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It really does.
I can really relate to the point to where you said, obviously giving the right tools, but a lot of the times that tool is just walking through jobs. Yes. Just kind of showing, like you said, the grand scheme plan, the overall of everything. Hey, when you're doing this, make sure you watch out for this, because what I've learned, everybody is not on the same wavelength as you, right? No. There are people that you need more explanation. They need more talk through. They need a visual to where, I've already seen it all in my head, to where they haven't. So it's understanding that fact that you do need to have those conversations.
Yeah. And that's 100% it, because you take so much of that stuff internally, because as you start these businesses, you are the sole person that you have to communicate with. Everything's internal conversation. It's all, okay, I need to schedule this trucking. I need to dig this way. I need to bring this backfill that way. And you only have to communicate with yourself, maybe one guy in the beginning. And usually that one guy is purely on a jumping jack or something like that. Like there's not a lot of explanation that needs to go into that besides beat the hell out of the material.
Correct.
But yeah, as you grow, that's and I think I'm behind the curve in doing this. So that's why I'm thankful for a little bit of slow time in the winter to be able to take these steps. But just have those conversations, be like, hey, like I want to be open with you guys about like, here's the plan set. Here's everything that needs to happen. Here's the fucking budget. Here's how I bid this. Like, I expect this item to take 6 hours to do with this piece of equipment, and 2 guys.
Yep.
And just like and I feel like it's easy to internally look at those situations and get disgruntled. Like if something's taken too long or taken too much time and you're losing money on it or whatever it may be, and just internalize that and be like, motherfucker, like I wish they'd figure it out. Rather than just going to them and be like, hey guys, like we're about to start this piece of work, this water line we're doing. I bid this in 3 days with this equipment. This is how much bedding we're supposed to import. And this is the parameters we're working within. Because I think guys are going to be much more receptive to that information than we all think. Yep. Also, like I think that's just it's gainful information, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to figure that out in my brain too, to be like, oh, maybe I just need to be more vocal with these guys, because I think it's kind of I can't remember the expression, but it's one of those things people just like to, it's just like sharing your salary. Yeah. One of those things people don't want to share, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to share the budgets with them and how long this is supposed to take, because I don't want them to know if we're making money or losing money. It's like, no, let's be real with them. Like, hey guys, here's the reality. If this is supposed to take a day in real life situation and it takes 2, we're losing money, because if I bid it in 2 days, we're not getting the job.
Correct.
Just in small sense, so it's just having those conversations and being real with your personnel. They're going to be receptive to it. And if it's a situation where the person isn't receptive to it, they might not be the best person for the crew too.
Yeah.
I agree. I think people have to realize when you do have those conversations, as far as like the owner standpoint, if they're like, well, I'm not going to tell my guys what I'm bidding my jobs at, they probably incurred a situation or had seen a situation to where, maybe other people are like, they're making how much on this project, right? And they're trying to maybe shelter that, and they don't want to go through that situation.
Absolutely.
90% of the people that you talk to and have these conversations that do work for you, they'll understand and they'll want to achieve that. Sure. Is there 10% that's like, holy cow, you're making 30 grand on this project and you're paying me 55 grand a year? Like, no fucking way. I'm going to take my time,
Yep. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that is definitely the dagger in it all, is sharing that information is, you're exposing a lot of those situations where like, this is the profit we can make, but I try to be one thing I have been good about is being pretty vocal with guys about what equipment costs, what repairs cost, what like breakdowns, all that shit costs. Be like, that trench roller repair we just did, and this is a small example. We bought that trench roller for 12 grand. We just spent 5 to repair it. Mm-hmm. And like putting that in, it's back to the conversation of like when I bought the first mini excavator, right? Taking that like personal financial and stemming in that into business financial. Like when you take these business financials, because Luke, I mean, it's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands up and down. You look at your bank account and it looks like a fucking Rubik's Cube.
Oh yeah. There's one day you maybe got 200 grand in there. You're like, fuck yeah. Like I figured it out. Then the next day you're like, fuck, I got 10 in there. What do I do?
Where to go? Yeah. And it's just like, when you put things in perspective like that, like, hey, that jumping jack you just ran over with the skid steer, that's $4 grand. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh shit, that was a month's worth of pay.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like it builds a little bit of respect for things too, when people actually understand what things cost. Like, hey guys, I've invested almost $1 million into this equipment and trucks and trailers and all this shit. Like, yeah, okay. And it also instills, I feel like, a little bit like everybody has a different perspective to life. Some people like working and like getting a paycheck and, you know, doing a great job with what they do. And some people want to take the step into business and take on all this incredible fucking risk that we've decided to do for some goddamn reason. But the dollars of it will scare the fuck out of some people. And
I think it's excavation has got to be one of the most capital intensive businesses to get into.
Oh, it has to be.
It has to be.
There's no way it's not. And I always get a kick out of, you know, being on site with other general contractor sites, and, you know, a framer or a electrician or something is bitching about how they don't have access and they have to pack their tools from the street. And I'm like, motherfucker, we're sitting here in $500,000 worth of equipment. Like, don't talk about me about your cost of your legs walking over to the fucking building.
Correct. Don't talk to me about mobilization, because it cost me $5,000 to bring my shit here. It didn't cost you anything. Maybe it cost you $100 in fuel. Yeah,
you needing snow plowed for 3 hours on site, like it's no fucking big deal. You want to buy this $100,000 skid steer
to move it? No, probably not.
Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. I can relate to that way too much.
Oh yeah. I'm sure every other dirt crew I talk to in town, I don't know if you get it, Luke, but it's almost like a breath of fresh air when you talk to another dirt contractor. Cause I try to keep good relationships with, there's a ton of companies in town that we compete directly. We're bidding the same jobs. We're kind of in the same realm of those, you know, 500,000 to $1 million jobs, $1.5 million jobs. And I try to keep good relationships with those guys. Yes. Like
they're still a good tool to you, right?
Oh, they're a huge tool. There's one local company. They've been around a lot longer than I have. They've probably been in business 20 years, but they've got a fleet of trucks and they have a gravel pit, and I use the absolute fuck out of them. I don't even know how much I paid them last year, but it wasn't anything small. But every time I call them, they're like, fuck yeah, we'll send you trucks.
On the way. Yep.
On the way. It's a done deal. But it's just funny having conversations with those guys sometimes. And I'm sure you have the same ones with guys in your local area too. Just like
they go through the same shit you do, and you're like, oh yeah, thank God. Like, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but thank God I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you call them, and I know we're trying to have a conversation here about being more positive, but you call them and you're just like, motherfucker, how's things going? You're like, you know, I'm just kind of disgruntled today about fucking X, Y, and Z with this concrete sub. They're just bitching about everything. And they're like, oh yeah, that's all I do is delegate people to chase around concrete subs and make sure they're happy. I'm like, oh, you too?
Oh, cool. You guys have that same problem? Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's not just me. I get it.
Mm-hmm. The concrete guys always love, not to bash on concrete guys, but they love to bitch.
Oh,
definitely bashing on them.
100% it was, but I said it not to bash on them so they don't take it personally. But quit fucking bitching, you concrete guys.
There you go.
With all due respect, go fuck yourself and take a little ownership with you.
There it is.
In the nicest way possible. Go fuck off.
Yeah. No, and it is, because it's one of those like, hey, we need another 6 inches in this corner. Can you mobilize an excavator back over? I'm like,
no.
There's been situations where, you know, there's a slab prep or something that's a 1/2 inch high in the center. Hey, we need you to come fix this. All right, no problem. Because again, it's back to that reputation. It's back to that relationship. If we fuck up, we're there. We will 100% come back and fix it. I'm not going to tell anybody to go fuck themselves over that. We'll be there. We'll take care of it. There was one I show up by myself. There's 2 guys in the crew. All they're doing is snapping lines on this slab. Mm-hmm. And I kind of look around a little bit. I'm like, okay, we kind of see what's going on here. So I grab a shovel and rake and take out the laser and go to town for about, it must have been 20, 30 minutes, shoveling and raking this gravel out of here to make sure the grade's right.
Yep.
And in the meantime, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so I got a phone call about this to come back and fix this, which I will say our responsibility, our fuck up, absolutely. But would it have not been easier for the 2 guys you had on site to take 10 minutes to correct this rather than me driving across the valley to take care of this? Like, if we've got a fuck up, I have no issue fixing it. I also have no issue if you actually had legitimate time into correcting it, send me a bill.
Correct.
I will pay that bill every time. And most of the time in situations like that, if it comes down to 30 minutes of total labor, send me the bill.
Yep.
That's going to be less than the fuel I spend driving an F-350 over that site to take care
and
of
your
it.
time. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just bill me. Yeah. 100%.
Bill me.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Anyways, off the concrete tangent. I could go deep on this one.
Oh yeah, we have some good stories about some concrete guys, but we'll save those for another day because I'm sure anybody that is in concrete listening to them, they'll be mad at us.
Nope. Just try to work together. That's all I can say.
100%. And you do have to work together, but it is fun to take a couple digs at people, I will say.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think I will parlay that into saying that back to relationships also. Like I've found where, we've done digs most of our digs are all for GCs. We've had 10, 15 different concrete guys following us to go set up forums and do these things. They all like something a little bit different.
Oh yeah, they're never the same.
If I have any advice to any other dirt crews out there as far as concrete is regarded, figure out who the sub is following you, get that phone number, call them, ask them what they want and need.
Yep.
It may seem outlandish. It may seem like too much, but if you just do that the first time, make sure they've got enough room in there to form up their walls and their footings. Make sure their grade is just so that they like it. Yep. Make sure that they've got a ramp in there for backing in their trailer or unloading forms. It's another good reputation point. Yep. Like if you leave a shithole site where they can't even get a pickup in there and they're packing forms 100 yards to get in there, they're probably going to cuss the shit out of you when they leave.
Yeah, they'll get pissed at you.
But if you leave them good access and they've got room to be in there and form and do what they need to do, they're probably going to give you a good recommendation in the next guy. Be like, hey,
definitely,
be a dirt guy. These guys left my site awesome. I loved following those guys.
Yep. 100%.
Keep that to heart too. It's easy to throw a little bit of shade in those situations, but there's also a lot to gain from it's been thrown too.
100%.
Look at that. You guys are coming back around.
Hey, a little bit of positive with the negative. There's
right. You gotta have a good mix.
Like Luke was saying earlier, there's always a solution.
Yeah, there is.
You guys really just came full circle there.
You know that they're bitching about us sometimes too, so why can't we bitch about them? But at the end of the day, shake hands and be buddies.
Yep, pretty much, and say how can we make this less of a pain in the ass?
Correct. What can we do better? Right, but then that's just knowing that it is a two-way street. It's not just a one-way; it's a two-way.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely two-way, absolutely, and that comes to the communication on their side too. Like,
correct.
If we're gonna take the time with any trade to take the time and outreach and be like, hey, dude, what is it that you need on this job site to make your life easier? Because if you know the first time, it's not that big of a fucking deal. Correct. It's really not. It's a little bit of logistics on how you move dirt and how you cut ramps, and it's not adding any more time. It's easy, but it also comes of. I'd love to get a call from a concrete guy, be like, hey man, I heard you're digging this hole. Can I come by and kind of let you know what we need? I'm yet to get that call. But
I'd love to have that call myself.
I'll be happy to have that call.
Yeah,
absolutely happy to have that call. Cause I think that's a huge factor that there's not just like the communicating with the cell phone, man. It's one of those where if all the trades can come together and just talk amongst ourselves. We all know the GCs are strapped for management. They're strapped for superintendents. They're just trying to keep materials ahead of them to keep these fucking projects built. Yep. They don't have the time to make sure everybody's fucking shaking hands and keep communication. They also don't have the time to make sure hey, dirt guys, by the way, we need a 5-foot over dig for this so the concrete guys have room. Correct. And hey, concrete guys, they're coming to backfill tomorrow, so make sure your form's out of the way. They don't have time for that. No, so I found it's been detrimental to make those contacts, meet your concrete guys, meet your framers, shake hands, exchange numbers, and say, hey man, call me when you're on to your next step, because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get the call from the GC, and I don't want to show up on a day to backfill when you're flying trusses.
Correct.
And just having that open line of communication. On most of our jobs, I communicate with those concrete guys or those framers more than I do the GC, because it's one of those where it's like, GC, don't even worry about it.
We'll send you guys the bill. Just make sure you pay us.
Yeah.
We'll talk to the subs. Yeah.
We're square. And I prefer it that way, honestly. I don't know about you, Luke, but I kind of prefer it that way. Like, I'd rather contact the surveyor myself, tell them when I'm going to be there, stake the building. Hey, it's Doug. Come pin corners, concrete guy. You're good to go. You're staked. Yep. Tell me when you're pouring walls and stripping them. I'll be back. I'd prefer that kind of line of communication, honestly. And Luke, what's your thought on that?
That's honestly really rare. I am not like, I would love that as well, but I feel like that's very rare in the trades, to where too many people do rely on the general contractor, to where maybe they don't have all the answers, but they have a schedule to make, and they are just going to tell you whatever they want to try to make that schedule. Oh, the concrete guys are stripping forms. Yeah, just get on site and you can just backfill right behind them. No problem. No, you can't do that. You know,
well, in real life, that doesn't work.
No,
never,
it doesn't work.
It never works. And I feel like that's why, like, if I have some advice in this little portion of this conversation for anybody else that's listening, like, take the 5 minutes to go shake hands with the dude that's following you or that's before you, because it will absolutely change your life as far as operations go. Like, I couldn't name how many fucking times in this last year I've gotten the call from the GC like, hey, we're ready to backfill tomorrow. And what do? I immediately pick up the phone. Hey, are you going to be stripped and out of there by 8 a.m. tomorrow? Not a fucking chance.
Not a chance.
All right, we won't be there. When are you going to be? Wednesday? Okay, we'll be there Wednesday.
We'll be there Wednesday. Yeah, exactly.
And then you always get the call back from the GC. Why aren't you here? Well, I talked to Dan, and they're not out of there.
Ready for us.
So
yeah,
little communication.
GCs are a whole nother topic. You love them, but you hate them. Sorry, Luke.
Oh man, it's do we want to dive into that topic?
I think that needs to be another podcast topic, so that we can just rant about GCs, but we'll block all of the GCs from listening to it.
I think we'll summarize it in this. I think, like everybody else, general contractors are in an immense struggle right now for manpower. Yep. They don't have the on-site management, and they don't have the inside management to properly manage these jobs right now. And that's nothing against them, because I get it. Getting labor is fucking hard. Getting management's hard. It's the world we live in right now, but that's the reality. Is it's tough to run a $5, $10, $15, $20 million job when you've got a person in the office and somebody that visits the job site a couple times a week. It's very difficult. Very difficult. And that's just kind of an industry problem, which we can touch on in a different podcast too. But
shout out to them for making it happen, though. GCs.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely do make it happen. And I will not shy away from that. They find a way to fucking make it happen. And most of the time, I will say that's because the internal working parts, all the subcontractors decide to make it happen.
Correct.
Because enough is enough. And they're like, all right, man, let's I guess it's me and you. We got to figure this out. Time to get it done.
Yeah. If we're hired to do a job, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we're gonna have to have a few more podcasts. A little concrete, a little GC.
Oh man, we could start topics across the board, my man.
A little bit of everything.
There's some good topics on that. I don't know if we should have a concrete company on here though, because then I'll just be staring at them the whole time.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I love the concrete guys, but anyway, well, Matt, thank you for your time on that. That was, thank you for your insight. Thank you for your wisdom. Yeah, man, I'm anxious to just continue following along with you guys and continue to watch you guys succeed and hopefully learn some more from you. I took quite a bit from this podcast myself. So.
No, I absolutely did too. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on. Excited to follow both of you guys and keep seeing what you're doing. I think it's cool kind of seeing guys in different regions too. It's good seeing what you're doing over in North Dakota and my boy down there hanging out in Phoenix where it's nice and warm.
Let's go.
Looks like
sorry guys.
Right now.
Also, we're always good for at least one winter vacation down there, a little flight down to Mesa. So we might have to, you golf at all?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's go swing the sticks and go have a good time.
Swing the sticks, golf like a 120, 130.
Hey,
on 9, right?
Yeah, on 9 holes.
Score? Or are you talking temperature?
On 9. Both. I'm talking 8. I'm talking 18. Actually, I'm talking 9, and I'm talking temperature.
It's like an 82, 85.
Yeah.
We'll catch a good buzz though. It'll be a good time.
Yeah. We'll have fun doing. We'll have fun doing at least quadruple bugs on every single hole.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Matt, we appreciate it. Luke, thanks again. It's always good to see you guys. And
see you boys later.